Great. So in the previous session, we started with the particular what we have studied, mucosal, right? You have submitted the assignment. So that was your assignment. Today we'll start with the intrauterine drug delivery system particularly, which is also the part of novel drug delivery systems. So if you can see the worldwide use of IUD devices. So the People's Republic of Korea, where the IUD used by almost 78% of the women, and in Asian republics, where it is used by 63 to 76% for contraceptive purposes. In China, the use, which is almost 50%, the women they are using the IUD devices. Okay, so these are the red zones. Don't use the annotation particularly. If you see the total contribution of the purposes of the using of IUD, the majority, that is 55%, that is for use for female sterilization. Other methods that contributes to around for IUD device, it is around 14%. For female sterilization, that is around 20%. Other methods, that is around for 20%, and the non-contraception purposes that cost contributes to around 50% particularly. Okay, so this is almost 50%. So if we see the history in India particularly, so in 1951, India became the first country in the world to launch the National Family Planning Program. So basically, introduction of the lipase loop IUD, which was heavily promoted through the intensive campaigns by mobile medical teams. In 1975, the internal sterilization and vasectomy were introduced in the family planning program, and a new attempt was made in introducing an IUD, that is copper T20, T200 in this particular case. In 1980, health and family planning infrastructure expanded to rural areas, particularly where incentives were given to acceptors of IUD or the method of sterilization, particularly. In 1990, the copper-based 380A was introduced with a 10 years of lifespan. It was well received as an alternative to sterilization, including among the poor rural women. Okay, so this was some of the history parts in India, the use of IUD devices particularly. So I think this is the anatomy part of the uterus. I don't think so you need any explanation on this. Everyone knows in the anatomical sections. We just go through three walls of the uterus. There is endometrium, the inner coat of the uterine. Then the myometrium, the thick muscular middle layer, which is made up of 3 layers of smooth muscles. And the last layer, that is the peritoneum, which is the external surface of uterus, which attaches uterus to pelvic cavity by the ligaments. We see the ancient history where the Egyptians were placing the stones in the uteri of the female camels to prevent the pregnancies during the long journeys. In China, basically placing golden ball in the uteri of the cows for the same purpose, that is prevention of the pregnancies. In 1909, the first paper to report the evidence of using a ring made of silkworm gut for contraception was published by Richter. In 1930, Dr. Ota's device was introduced. Then in the year of 1950 and 60, the development of new plastics for the development of improved types of intrauterine devices. But the breakthrough in this IUD was in the year of 1970, where the Dalkhan shield was introduced, and which was as abbreviation among the IUD devices particularly. Let us see the classification of intrauterine devices. There are two classifications particularly. First, that is the medicated devices, and the other one, that is non-medical devices. In medicated, the basically copper bearing IUDs, that is copper 7, copper T380A, copper T200. These are some of the examples of copper bearing intrauterine devices. In progesterone or progesterone devices, there are some of the marketed products called as Progestat, Progesert, and Mirena. These are some of the examples of marketed products of progesterone and levonorgestrone releasing IUDs. And in non-medicated, particularly, the ring-shaped IUDs made up of stainless steels, and there are some of the plastic IUDs which are fabricated from polyethylene and polypropylene. The basic and famous example, lipase loop IUD particularly, or SAFE T coil particularly, right? So if we see the development of intrauterine devices, 1920 was the first generation of intrauterine devices which was introduced into market, and they are constructed from the silkworm gut and flexible metal. Example, Gaffenberg star and Ota ring particularly. But in the years, there was a decline in the popularity of this first generation IUDs due to the difficulty in insertion, need for the frequent removal that leads to pain and bleeding, and other serious complications particularly. So these are some of the pictures of the first generation intrauterine devices. Then several plastic based IUDs were introduced in the market, which was of varying sizes and shapes, were prepared using the inert biocompatible polymers like polyethylene, polypropylene, ethylene vinyl acetate copolymers, and basically silicone elastomers. So you can see some of the shapes which was made of the polypropylene and ethyl vinyl coacetate polymers, second generation intrauterine devices particularly. In the modern development, the third generation of intrauterine devices were the Margulies, that is the plastic spirals that was inserted for the contraception purpose, and the next, that is lipase loop, that is we call lipase loop, and the Dalkon shield IUDs. This is the Dalkon shield IUDs were introduced. The efficacy of these IUDs were proportional to their surface area, that is direct contact with the endometrium particularly. The larger the IUDs were more effective, but expulsion rate is high as these produce endometrial compression, myocardial distension, uterine cramps, and particularly bleeding. So this Dalkon device, instead of the monofilament string, the Dalkon shield had a multifilament string enclosed in the particular sheath. When strings were cut, the protective shield was breached and the bacteria could leak into the particular uterus. The large surface area of the intrauterine portion may have contributed to its ability to harbor the various bacteria. But in addition, the multiple arms Hello, can you hear my voice, Onkar? APS, put a message to me. The large surface area basically of the intrauterine portion may have contributed to its ability to harbor the various bacteria. In addition, the multiple arms of device designed to but the reduction of expulsion that caused to trauma and cervix. Hello everyone, those who are having the video is going on, I request you please close your videos so you will get the clear. Aniruddha, please close your video. Prajwal, Ajinkya Gaikwad, Prajwal, please close the video. Okay, so this is the Dalkon shield particularly, but there are some of the problems with the particular device that which causes the trauma to cervix during the insertion and further contributing to women's vulnerability to infections. Ultimately, the Dalkon Shield was linked to 18 deaths and 2 lakhs pelvic infections, hysterectomies, and other gynecological conditions. So this product particularly withdrawn from market in 1974. So in the years, the scientists were started to developing the medicated intrauterine devices. In 1967, Tatum and Ziffer that developed the T-shaped intrauterine devices. This particular T-shaped the intrauterine devices. This significantly reduces side effect. Also, the pregnancy rate is reduced drastically, and which is having a good uterine tolerance. And non-medicated IUDs, which act to the mechanical contact with the endometrium, where the size is very important factor. Large size produces irritation and other side effects. So there is an optimum size which leads to better efficacy of the particular intrauterine devices. This particular non-medicated IUDs, which is having a high expulsion rate, but no improvement in the contraception efficacy. So that leads to a new era of the using of the medicated IUDs, as these devices acts as a carrier of choice for intrauterine delivery of contraceptive agents, which will lead to the new era in development of IUDs. So one of the best example of this is the development of copper bearing IUDs. In 1969, Ziffer et al. Has reported the copper attached to an IUD mark enhanced effectiveness. This T-shaped polyethylene device wound with the 30 mm square copper wire. That's why the copper T30, that is the 30 is the surface area of the copper. The pregnancy rate was reduced to 5% particularly. Additional clinical evaluations with larger surface area of the copper, where the people were used the 200 meter mm square, which was found maximum contraceptive efficiency particularly. The recommended duration of use of copper bearing IUD is generally 3 to 7 years, although some follow-up studies have demonstrated that these devices are highly effective for a period of 12 years. So these are the layer of copper which were attached to an polyethylene plastic, biodegradable particle plastic. So this device is made of T-shaped polyethylene plastic. This device uses copper wire wound to the stem of the T. The grades as per the surface area of copper T30, copper T200, and copper Cu380, the most commonly used copper-based IUDs. Okay, so depending on the requirement of the copper, we can attach the particular threads of the copper to give the particular surface area. Basically, why the copper is being used? Because this copper have anti-fertility action. The primary mechanism of action for the copper TCUA T copper 380A is the preventing sperm from fertilizing ova. The copper ion reduces sperm motility and viability, so sperm rarely reach the fallopian tubes. The TCU380A also causes the so the copper ion reduces the sperm motility and viability, so sperm rarely reach to the fallopian tubes. So this T copper 380A also causes increase in the WBCs, enzymes, and prostaglandins in the uterine fluids that also impairs sperm function as well as the implantation. Inhibition of implantation is a secondary mechanism of action for the copper T. Additionally, copper-based IUD inhibit the development of OVAs. So some of the product that was manufactured by GD Searle and Company, Copper 7, was first developed approved by US FDA for 3 years of use, where the polypropylene plastic device shaped like a 7, right? So 89 milligram of copper wire were around the vertical limb with the surface area of 200 square mm particularly, which releases 9.87 microgram per day for 40 months. Smaller volume, that is 0.09 centimeter cube than the CUT 0.16 centimeter cube, that easily inserted into the nulliparous woman particularly. No need for cervical dilation, and the removal is also painless. If we see the clinical effectiveness of CUT and CU7, the pregnancy rate, right? So the CU7, if you can say the pregnancy rate over the period of 35 months, you can clearly see the pregnancy rate is around only 3%. Well, in case of the previously developed copper-based IUDs, where in the 32 months, the pregnancy rate that is around 5.5%. So there are newer developments. The efficacy is improved when copper wire is located on the transverse arm as in close contact with the upper portion of uterine cavity particularly. So this copper T380A was approved in the 1980, which is having the two colors of copper on the transverse arm particularly. Each color provides additional surface area of 30 square mm particularly. And this copper T200C, which is having 7 copper sleeves of copper on the both arms, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 copper sleeves. Efficacy same as CUT380A, but it can retain the physical integrity for 15 to 20 years. So this is a long-acting IUDs, beneficial to population in which medical care is not readily available. So new development, we can see there are multi-load copper-based IUDs, that is MLCU, multi-load CU250, which is the combination of CUT and Dalkon sheet without the central plastic membrane. Blunt apex of device fits into the vault of the uterine cavity without the penetrating endometrial walls. Two teeth student side arms adapt to the counters of the uterine cavity. During the uterine contraction, fundus presses against the upper edge of the IUD, that results into bending of the particular arms. Where pregnancy rate, you can see drastically, that is 0.3% only. And expulsion rate, we have only 1%. So there is another 2 versions of this: multi-load copper 325 and multi-load copper 250 mini. So these are some of the examples of multi-load copper IUDs. Then we have some of the hormone releasing intrauterine devices particularly, where use of hormones in IUD initiated by the scientists Doyle and Clave. Then Croxato et al. Showed that the progestin release at a controlled rate from the silicone capsule inserted in rabbit uterine cavity, which prevents the implantation. In 1970, Scomena and co-workers affixed progesterone containing silicone capsules to modified lipase loop, granted US patent, this particularly. Early models that had high expulsion rates or the side effects, particularly the T-shaped progesterone release IUD, were developed. Improvements of the efficacy, where release rate, that is 65 microgram per day, was found to be produce contraception and selected as the final IUDs. So these are the hormone releasing IUDs, where they can have the anti-fertility action of this progesterone. Secretion of secretory phase is hormonally controlled. Optimum amount of estrogen progesterone required for proper development of endometrium particularly. The implantation of blastocyte takes place on secretory endometrium. Then decidual reaction after the implantation, that is the stromal cell enlarge and grow as the polyhedral cells, which is rich in glycogen and lipids. These changes takes place in presence of implanted blastocytes. One decidual reaction occurred the implantation of blastocyte cannot take place once again. Endometrial hypermaturation is unfavorable for the implantation. Then the maturation of endometrium is associated with the decidual formation, which is the induced by the progesterone hormone. So if you see the clinical efficacy of this progesterone releasing IUDs, where depending upon the daily dose of progesterone released, when the no progesterone is released, you can see the pregnancy rate is around 22%. When we have 10%, 10 microgram per day progesterone release, you can see the change in pregnancy rate is around 5.2% only. And when we put the particular 120 mg of, you can see the 120 mg of progesterone release per day, you can see the pregnancy rate that is 0.6%. Basically, this live table analysis of the clinical effectiveness of Progestat, which is the Progestasert, basically, which is a marketed product. Okay, you can see the pregnancy rate in porous and nulliparous women, which is not more than 2.5%, and expulsion rate is maximum 7.5%. Okay, but due to the age of using of and efficacy of the particular device, the continuation rate, which is more than the 70% of this particular Progestasert. Then there are membrane controlled reservoir type drug delivery systems, where the polymeric membrane encapsulates the drug and also control the release. We know there are two types of the reservoir system: single component system and multiple component system. In membrane controlled reservoir drug system, single component system, the drug in solid form encapsulated in a capsule, which is made up of biocompatible polymeric material. The examples such as silicone elastomer and polyethylene. The marketed products, Scomegna's silicone based IUDs, where drug release follows the zero order kinetics. Silicone elastomers were widely used previously as a polymer, which do not possess required tensile strength or elastic modulus. To overcome the drawbacks of copolymers of polydimethylsiloxane, that is PDMS, with the polycarbonate or polyurethane was also prepared. In multi-component system, encapsulation of liquid medium saturation with excess of drug in rate controlling polymeric membrane. Example, Progestasert, which is manufactured by Alza Corporation. This is the structure of the Progestasert, where the body, which is made up of ethylene vinyl acetate copolymer, and the tip is made up of polyethylene, where the polyethylene base in which the 38 milligram progesterone microcrystals were loaded, and along with the barium sulfate, and these all are suspended inside the silicone oils. Correct? So which releases the constant rate of 65 microgram per day of the progesterone, which follow the zero order release rate till the drug solution becomes unsaturated. 60% of loading dose of reservoir compartment depleted during the first year, and the remaining 40% that can be used for the further next years. So basically, you can see the useful life that is recommended for maximum 1 year. Then we have polymeric matrix diffusion controlled drug release system, where homogeneously dispersed drug particles in a cross-linked polymeric matrices, where it consists of another two rooms, retrievable matrix devices and biodegradable matrix devices. In retrievable matrix devices, basically retrieved or removed after the termination of the particular tetramers. When the drug has been released, the device has been retrieved or removed particularly. And how they are prepared? When drug is mixed, mix the drug powder with semi-solid silicone elastomer that is the vulcanization room temperature or low temperature, or mix the drug powder with low density polyethylene particles, then melt the particular polyethylene and extrude with the help of hot melt extrusion. The drug release is linearly proportional to square root of the particular time. In case of biodegradable matrix devices, there is no need to retrieve the particular device after termination of the treatment. And how these are made? Basically, dissolve the particular drug in a biodegradable polymer such as polylactic acid in a common organic solvent. It may be your ethanol, methanol, acetone, or DMSO, and melt pressing at a elevated temperature after flushing of the solvent. And the drug release is combination of polymer hydrolysis and the drug diffusion. After releasing the drug, the particular polylactic acid, it will automatically biodegrade and it will eliminated from the system. So these are some of the examples of sandwich types drug release systems where hybrid polymer membranes permeation with the polymer matrix diffusion. The thin rate of controlling membrane encapsulates a high permeable drug dispersing matrices. The release rate can be improved by coating porous support with silicone elastomers. So this is the example of Novati manufactured by Liris Pharmaceuticals, Finland. Okay, so the upper tip is made up of polyethylene and the lower base was prepared by coated with polydimethyl siloxane, where the 60 mg of levonorgestrel dispersed in PDMS. Okay. So this is the Novati, one of the marketed product of the levonorgestrel IUDs. The drug, that is levonorgestrel, which is more potent than the progesterone analog. T-shaped polyethylene support by sandwich type silicone based drug reservoir, which releases 20 microgram of drug for over a period of 5 years. We can say more than 5 years. Then we'll take another last example, that is the Mirena, levonorgestrel releasing intrauterine devices. So this is the device Mirena, where the size, that is 32 millimeter in length and width, which is a T-shaped frame, and the base, which is a hormone cylinder. The T-shaped polyethylene frame, the T-body with steroid reservoir, which consists of hormone in elastomer core around it, the vertical stem. The reservoir consists of a cylinder made up of mixture of levonorgestrel and silicone, that is PDMS, polydimethyl siloxane, containing 52 milligram of levonorgestrel. The reservoir is covered by silicone, that is PDMS membrane. The T-body, which is 32 millimeter in both horizontal and vertical dimension, length and width. A monofilament brown polyethylene removal thread is attached to loop at the end of, you can see the removal thread. We can easily remove the particular device after the particular drug release. So this Mirena is intended to provide an initial rate, that is 20 microgram per day of levonorgestrel. This rate decreases progressively to half that the value after the 5 years. This Mirena has mainly local progestogenic effect in uterine cavity. Morphological changes of the endometrium are observed, including the stromal pseudo-decidulation, glandular atrophy, leukocytic infiltration, and decrease in glandular stromal mitosis. Thickening of cervical mucus prevents the passage of sperm into the uterine. Inhibition of the sperm capacitation or cervical. Glycodelin inhibits the interaction between sperm and ova and therefore blocks the fertilization, acting as an additional contraceptive barrier to prevent the fertilization of mature oocytes. And finally, PDMS siloxane T-frame induces local inflammatory reaction that may also spermatotoxic. Correct. So we'll stop with the particular chapter. These are some of the another examples in the market, but I think the 5 examples that we have studied, which were very, very useful. Okay. Clear? So I think we have cleared the chapter within the 40 minutes time period. Okay. So I hope I'll upload this particular session on YouTube also, so you can see. And importantly, whatever we have studied in the online sessions, the PPTs today I'm going to share with you. Okay. So you can read at home, and anything you have not understood, you can ask me on WhatsApp group, or you can put me a message on WhatsApp. Okay. And thanks for your patience and listening the particular chapter. We were happy, but I'm disappointed with the attendance. Only 34 students were participated today. I don't know where was the remaining students. Are we clear? Shubham, Satish, Ajinkya. So you can raise the thumbs up, right? Jante raho. Okay, so thank you so much. Oh, we have time extended. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Prajwal, clear? I think another part of this session, the PPT is, I don't think so you require, because in our syllabus,